Let's go. What's up, crew? All right, just getting everything ready. Okay, here we go. Okay. So, ADUs. This is going to be a good one. I feel like this is becoming quite the hot topic these days with ADUs and having to understand what it's like to have something in your backyard and no longer having to worry about like making sure your basement can be rented out or anything like that. I think you can have everything you want and more with ADUs. The thing is there's some drawbacks and there are some pros as well. And there's a lot of like personal things that I want to touch on in this video, in this live, of like why ADUs are so beneficial for like your primary residence, having that operate as like your primary residence, using it for personal reasons. For example, like your family, like having your parents become of like the elderly age and you just can't take care of them, but you want them to be close to you, right? It's that's one good reason. Another reason is, let's say you have adult children and you have these adult children that are coming out of college and they're just not ready for the real world, if you will. I mean, shoot, to be honest, like when I was 18, I was just going to community college and I was struggling even to make enough money to live. And this was like back in what, 2007, 2008. And here we are now with inflation hitting us hard and the new generation hard. And I honestly feel bad for the next generation, but you don't have to play victim. You can always just be proactive and make it work going into the future. So I think there's so much that we can do here with this new policies, especially here in the Denver area, having ADUs work for you. And of course, like having an ADU means that, first of all, you would need to buy a property and have enough space in the backyard for you to make it happen. Of course, it's not always the case, but that's typically the case with here in the Denver area. I know back in San Diego, people are building ADUs on top of garages and having, let's say, duplexes turn into triplexes or triplexes turning into fourplexes, quadplexes, whatever you want to call them. And it's so interesting to see, and it's so interesting to see Colorado follow in suit with what California is doing. So nonetheless, just wanted to give you that sort of base information of what ADUs are mainly used for. And I kind of want to jump into a couple of things. What are ADUs? And then I'll probably go through it with this West Denver single family plus ADU pilot program, which I kind of wanted to talk about on here. And I'll make a longer video of this on what do you call it? On YouTube, like an actual long form video. But for this, I just want to introduce this to you all. I will refine a lot more on the long term, or not the long term, but the long form video. But with this, I thought this was pretty interesting. And it says West Denver Renaissance Collaborative. That's interesting. But it's mainly like the single family plus. Basically, you have a single family home and you're adding to it and you're adding an ADU pilot program. So it makes me believe that this is like one of the first. So I'm doing my basic research on this, and you are in for the ride of like what I'm learning, what I'm interpreting, what I'm seeing, and maybe you can give some insight too if you're completely understanding of it, or maybe you're not and you're just learning with me. So ADU pilot program, right? So in addition to talking about this, I'm going to be going over like what the heck is an ADU as well, and like the benefits, loans, and things like that. I'm trying to not make it specific to Denver, but I will be talking about Denver specific things somewhat here and there throughout this live stream. So what's an ADU? I feel like this is the reason why I like to go about this in this direction, right? So an ADU, accessory dwelling unit, second house behind or attached to the existing single family home. Casita, carriage house, granny flat, alley house, mother-in-law suite. And this is their backyard. I don't know if you can see it on shorts or on the vertical scene here, but it's basically a house in the backyard, and a lot of people convert their garages into these ADUs or put it on top of the garage. And most of the time it's detached, but it's making use of that backyard space, right? In Denver, an ADU is an accessory and is paired with the primary home. ADUs cannot be sold separately. So I guess you can't lot split, although there's no specific language for lot splitting in this. But I know over in places, let's say like Seattle or metropolitan areas that have like 1 million plus population, where density is an issue. I know my buddy Eric is doing lot splits where he is building an ADU in the backyard, and then he splits up the lot to sell off the individual, and then keep the primary house even. So why build an ADU? This was something that I brought up earlier on in this stream, where it's like, there's more to it than just the financial aspect of it. Obviously, the financial aspect of it, of getting rent and also getting some appreciation out of it. And that's another thing I'd like to talk about. I guess, well, let's talk about it now. Before we get into the actual why build an ADU, I do want to mention that it's not a 1-to-1 ratio of improving upon the property with an ADU does not mean you get that same amount of equity built into the property itself. For example, if you were to have, let's say, a $500,000 property, right? And you have enough space to build an ADU. And let's say that ADU is a 1-bed and 1-bath. And the house that is $500,000 that you bought it for is, let's say, a 3-bed, 2-bath, right? That extra unit and a 1-bed, 1-bath is not going to mean that, let's say, it's a $200,000 ADU, does not mean that property is going to go up from $5,000 to $700,000. It's just not going to work out that way. It's probably going to be maybe $600,000, like half the cost, 50% of the actual cost to build the place. And I think the biggest benefit here is a lot of the personal reasons behind it. For example, if you did want to make that extra income and you feel like rent would help out the cost of the build itself, if the rent would even make a surplus, and if you want to have it on Airbnb and you want to make even more money that way, that's entirely possible. So, succinctly put, ADUs are not going to give you that direct 1-to-1 ratio of you put $200,000 in the ADU. That means the property is going to get $200,000. It just does not work that way. So the biggest benefit here is that you're getting rent, and the rent increases over time. And so that's the biggest benefit in my opinion. So why build an ADU? A lot of these are going to be more on the personal side. And I think this is a huge benefit. And it's something that me and my wife, Kat, are looking into for our San Diego place. So let's get it right into it. I mean, I feel like I'm just talking. So like aging in place. So on-site care, like if you were to have an elderly parent live super close to you versus having them get sent to, number one, a nursing home, or number two, just a different house in general with someone you don't trust, and God forbid an emergency happens, you can just walk into the backyard and help them out without having to leave work or drive somewhere, drive 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it might be. They are just in the backyard. I think that's a really good benefit to having an ADU, especially if you want to take care of your parents, just like they took care of you, right? So family-sized housing, build up to 3 bedrooms and 864 square feet. So I looked at this a little bit earlier, and I do want to mention that they're going to be mentioning their pre-built designs within their program within this PowerPoint presentation, right? So they have like 7 different models, and they have like a studio, a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom in this. So what they're referring to in this second bullet is built up to 3 bedrooms and 864 square feet, meaning there is a layout that is saving you a bunch of money because they already have the design, the plans, everything set up for a 3-bedroom, 864 square feet if the lot size allows that. So that's great. Minimize displacement, helping families that are doubled up or temporarily housed with relatives. So if you were to have that like adult child that is just not ready to take on a huge rent responsibility, you can give them a discount and have them live in the backyard, and they can come over for dinner if you wanted to like make dinner for them, right? Affordable co-ownership. I think this is really great too for people that want to hold on to that responsibility of like, hey, I'm owning a home now. Let's co-own, or let's figure this out of what it's like to be a landlord, right? So affordable co-ownership, I think that's really great for intergenerational building. So I grew up, to be honest, I don't think I've ever lived alone. I've always like split up my rent, or lived with friends, or had roommates. I just never wanted to pay retail value for rent. And that came in the form of, let's say, even live with my parents for a while over in San Diego. It just made so much more sense to me. I think that's why I'm such a strong advocate for house hacking. And looking at this co-ownership model of like being responsible for something without the full, what do you call it? Without the full impact of missing a payment, or like having to work on landscaping. You know, you're co-owning this with someone, and you can share responsibility. So I think that's great. A great way to start. Moving this over so that you guys can see. Equitable opportunity, minimal upfront costs and support to successfully navigate the process of ADU development. This is a pretty good program. And for those of you that are already in the Denver area, I think this is really great. This pilot program is a pretty good one, and we're going to be going through all this, so I want you to be a part of it. Sustainable development, built with high energy efficiency standards and are solar ready. Adaptable housing, adaptable design standards to support housing access and people with mobility challenges. That's another thing too. Like for people that have, let's say, disabled nieces or nephews, and like you can have them live in the backyard, and ADUs give you that opportunity to just be there immediately, but also give them some sort of independence of being able to live alone. And maybe even like, let's say they're in a wheelchair, they're wheelchair bound. You can design this ADU so that it's like wider and also gives a ramp up to the door and puts the kitchen a little bit lower and has the bed a little bit lower. Like it's very accommodating, and people can feel like they're independent within that ADU. I know it's a very small niche of people that want to accommodate for their disabled child or relative, but I think that's still really good for you to interpret going into this. So specifically with this pilot program, it's great like to have an ADU. I've always wanted to build another ADU in my short-term rental lot with like, because we have a backyard too, and we could probably build a studio in the backyard. I think that's a really good way to like have that additional income. I'd really like to look into it. And Denver is having this really hard time like keeping up with demand. I feel like even though there's like 3.5 months of inventory right now in the Denver area, let me move this over so you can see. It's still really tough for renters. Like even if we have 3.5 months of inventory, people still can't afford it as far as renters go. They can't afford it, and it's really tough for them to make sense of it all. So it's really, really frustrating, I'm sure, with people that are like renters here in the Denver area, and they see these ADUs and they're like, well, I can't even buy a home, let alone an ADU on that home. So that's kind of the big thing here. Let's see here. Who qualifies for this program? I think this is really good too. So this is applicable to everyone within the city and also the county of Denver. might change, and you might have different ADU programs for those, let's say in Aurora or Littleton or Highlands Ranch, people outside of the Denver area. But as long as you're a homeowner, you initiate it, you apply for it. It has ADU zoning. And for those of you who don't know, everything that is single family home zoned in the city and county of Denver is automatically approved for an ADU. Like this has already gone into effect. I believe it's HB 1125, where they've implemented so many things. And I feel like this is a really good segue to talk about what the HB 1152, that's what it is easing several burdens, mostly by removing or tempering restrictions on and conditions municipalities often place on would-be ADU additions. So this is a general idea of what the HB 1152 is doing here, right? So getting right into it, these are some really good bullet points, and that's why I have this open right here. So it forbids the blanket prohibition. This is HB 1152, by the way, and this is specific to Denver, specific to Colorado. And I want to, just bring it up how much they're pushing for this ADU change. So it forbids the blanket prohibition of ADU development in certain areas of town, as Fort Collins currently does. So Fort Collins already is allowing ADUs pretty much everywhere. Basically, if there is room for an ADU, there can be an ADU. That's crazy to me. It's like such a huge benefit, and it's starting to look a lot like California's answer to the housing shortage and housing problem. With some exceptions, it bars local authorities from requiring a dedicated parking spot for an ADU addition, as Boulder now does. That could save thousands of dollars in expanding a driveway, for example. So those of you with a carport, a slim driveway, or some sort of, let's say, shed that's blocking you from being able to drive into the backyard, that's no longer going to be a necessity to get rid of in order for someone to reach the ADU by driving or parking close to it. They can allow people to park on the on street parking. They will allow people to park on the street to have that qualify as your parking spot for the ADU. So huge. You don't have to spend so much money on creating a whole new driveway. Also, this is huge too. Huge for investment properties and investors. It forbids the requirement that the owner must live in the house associated with the ADU, though municipalities can require an owner to live there at the time the ADU construction is completed, as Denver's updated regulations will do. So you don't even have to live in the house in order for you to start that construction of the ADU. This is in certain areas, but in general, that is the idea. But it will require an owner to live there at the time the ADU construction is completed. So huge. I think that's massive. You don't have to have it as your primary residence in order for you to take advantage of ADUs and reap the benefits of it. Another great point is that it lets ADUs enjoy the same side setback rules as the primary dwelling would. For rear setbacks, it can be, let's say it's either the same as other accessory units like sheds, or 5 feet from the setback. It's great. So I think this is a really succinct way of understanding what the HB 1152 bill is implementing, or has implemented. I think it went into effect in November. So here we are, 2025. All of this is in effect now. And not that many people know about it because a lot of people are just worried about the housing shortage. And that's the main problem here, rather than worrying about ADUs and the construction of ADUs. So let's go to the pilot program again. All income levels can build. I think that's huge too. So what's nice about working with this program, the pilot program here, is that as long as you're in the city and county of Denver, you're a homeowner and you applied and you get approved, all income levels can build. But those under certain income limits qualify for additional funds. I think there's more details like further on in this PowerPoint, but I think it was saying like $70,000 upfront cost is paid for by this pilot program. They want people to go through this ADU program to relieve some of the stress of housing shortage. So this is great. Program cost savings. Okay, here we go. Getting right into it. So homeowner of any AMI, AMI is area median income, may qualify to be a part of the program. Total available cost savings depends on the household's income in relation to an area median income. Oh yeah, here it is. Here's the description. So basically, they want to make sure that people, even in low income, they could take advantage of this. Like if you've owned the property for so long, let me move this over a little bit. If you've owned the property for so long that you have so much equity built into your main house, the primary house, that you can refinance or take out a HELOC and use that money to pay for the ADU, that's huge. That's great. And a lot of the people that have been homeowners that want to take advantage of this, I feel like even if you're a lower income individual or family, you can still take a lot of advantage from this. All homeowners are eligible for ADU cost savings of up to $55,000. Households with over or under 120% of the area median income qualify for up to $85,000 in cost savings. Huge, right? I mean, that's so much upfront cost that you're saving on this. So yeah, I think so far this is a great program. And further into this PowerPoint presentation that the pilot program has given to us, you will see why it's helping out so much. And it also speeds up the whole process because it goes through like the soil borings, the plans, the details of actually having it built onto your house. It's all like right here in this program. Okay. So how program ADUs are financed, and this is something that I mentioned earlier. Refinance your current mortgage, 30-year construction or permanent, or you can leverage your home equity through a home equity line of credit or a HELOC. And so for those of you who don't know, this is where it gets so clutch just being a homeowner. You can take out money from your home and in the form of a loan without actually taking out money from the home. You're like borrowing against your home. So for those renters out there, I think the grand statistic is that like for the average renter, your net worth is around like what, 10 grand, 8 grand or something like that. For the homeowner, your net worth is around 300 grand, 400 grand, because the home equity is so high in potential that you can use it for these HELOCs, for refinancing, and it just jumpstarts your whole process of being financially free and making sure that this money works with you, this house works with you through inflation. It's so great. So anyhow, this is their advised way of financing the ADU construction. So we refer qualified homeowners to partnered lending institutions with mission-aligned affordable housing financing. Great. Yeah. So there are some drawbacks to this program. This is the drawback to this program. Well, there's 7 bullets. Looks like 7 bullets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 bullets. You own the ADU and agree to the following for 25 years. So you need to own it. I assume you can sell it, so that's fine. You need to, like, in order for you to reap the benefits from this program, you need to house a family or house your family or rent with a long-term lease. So 30 plus days, no short-term rentals. You can't have it on Airbnb, have people stay for like a weekend and get paid for it, that sort of thing. You need to maintain rent at or below 80% of AMI, and the AMI's max rent. And there's some, this one will go into that next. Either homeowner or renter initially qualifies under 80% AMI. So if you make enough money and you're, let's say, 100% AMI, like you make that median income, that's fine. Your renter needs to make less than the AMI. It needs to make 80% or less of the AMI. And for those of you that missed it, it's the area median income. Annual reporting on use, rents, and insurance. So you do need to document what happens, keep the leases, keep the communication, make sure that that's all well documented. And it needs to remain compliant if the property is sold to your family. Crazy. I feel like this is pretty good stipulations. Like you don't need to, this is not that crazy of a stipulation for you to go through this program. And for those of you that don't see it, I'm going to move this around on the verticals. This 2-bedroom ADU has a max rent of $2,348. $2,348. So if we were to go through this program, right? Let's get this calculator up here. Where are you? There you are. So calculator. So we need to make sure that the rent for this place is 80% of AMI. So here we go. Maintain rent at or below 80% AMI max rent. So if this has $2,348 for the max rent, we need to rent out this 2-bedroom place for 80% of that. So $2,348 times 0.8. The max you can charge for this 2-bedroom place is $1,878. $1,878. That's for this specific area. It can change wherever you are within the Denver area. But for this particular place, it's just giving you an idea of what that looks like. Okay, so rental requirements. Give me a couple seconds here. Just want to make sure. Okay, everything's looking good. Okay, so rental requirements. For each ADU, rent must maintain or remain under annual 80% max rent. So studio, these are the max rents. I did a little bit of research and this is what their max rent is. I'm going to move this over here for y'all. So for studios, 1826, 1 bedrooms, 1957. And look at this, there's only $130 difference between a studio and a 1-bedroom. And then you look at a 2-bedroom, that's about a $400 difference. And then a 3-bedroom, you're looking at another $400, give or take. So studio and 1-bedrooms, I mean, you might as well make it a 1-bedroom and have it state as a 1-bedroom, because a lot of people, let's say renters, when they look for that place, they're looking for typically a 1-bedroom. And you might as well get it up to that point. But at the same time, I guess it just depends on the cost of the studio itself. If the studio is 1826 and it's a more affordable cost option versus the 1-bedroom, then, you know, maybe you do go through that studio route. So either the renter or homeowner household must initially earn less than 80% AMI. So initially earn makes me think that when they sign the lease or when they start construction, they need to make less than 80% of AMI. And that is determined by who? Determined annually by the Colorado Housing Finance Authority, CHFA. Okay. So, why build with the ADU pilot program? We need to see the pros. Why should we go through this, right? With the program, partner with an experienced development team. So these are the pros. This is what you get out of the program here. Initial out-of-pocket costs, on average, $1,500. Although they say initial out-of-pocket costs, so I'm not sure exactly how much it will cost, like throughout the whole process. Pre-designed models reduce architectural and engineering costs. And that's where like these stamp of 7 plans come in. And I think this is where you're saving a lot of costs, because instead of going through an architect and making sure that everything's going according to plan and starting from scratch, you have these templated models that you could just plug and play and give to the contractors for them to build, as long as everything within your lot goes according to plan as well and is feasible. Significant construction cost savings. I think that's a benefit of actually going through the pilot program. Referrals to competitive ADU financing. I think you'll probably be paired with someone that will look at your HELOC, will see how much you have left on the loan of your primary residence on that lot, and then see what your options are. I know, let's say with me, my San Diego home, it is not worth it for me to refinance. I do not want to refinance. Right now, I think it's like a 4% interest rate with an investor loan, not an owner occupied loan, but like a conventional investor loan. And that's clutch. Like, I am not refinancing that from a 4% into a 7 or 7.5%, depending on if I live there or don't live there, right? So having all of that set into like my mortgage cost, and I'm not changing anything about it. And like, I want to keep my mortgage the way it is. So HELOC would probably be the next best option here. Pre-developmental technical services coordination. So you don't have to do much of the coordination. It looks like they're being the GCs on this: soils bore, surveyor, sewer scope. So I guess they want to connect to your main line of the sewer and make sure that everything goes according to plan that way, like connecting to utilities. Assistance with estimating sidewalk and right-of-way requirements. Okay, great. Predictable development and construction budget. Yeah, I think that's another benefit with having them be a part of it, because then you don't have to worry about it. You can just go to work. Like, you don't have to like make sure that everything's going according to plan. Obviously, you do want to make sure that you're checking in, but yeah, it's a benefit of going through this pilot program. I won't go through this too much, but the idea without the program is that like it's a lot of costs. You have to coordinate them yourselves. There's no construction cost savings. Having to just start from scratch, it's really annoying. What is this? Estimate all variable costs, including a full 5-foot sidewalk requirement. Okay. Resolve budget changes throughout the process. Yeah. Like, who knows what kind of monkey wrenches are going to go throughout this project, right? So I like looking at this, right? This is the available program models. Studio, 1 bedroom. You got a studio at 430 square feet, which is ample amount of square feet, honestly. 1 bedroom, not bad. 2 bedroom, large and small, 576 or 864. Let's look at the difference between these two. So it looks like these are the 2 bedrooms. And then this large version has a huge living room. I think that's the bigger benefit here. The large living room. Yeah, it's another 300 square feet of living space. That's huge. I mean, if you're going to be putting in that much square footage, it looks like that 864 square feet for a 2-bedroom large design, you might as well go into that 3-bedroom situation and just make it a 3-bed instead of just a large 2-bedroom. At least in my opinion, because I think that that'll increase the value of your home significantly. So development process, 12 to 18 months. Submit program application, 1-on-1 program meeting, blah, blah, blah. This is if you're interested, all that good stuff. Certificate of occupancy. You do want to make sure that, or I'm sure they want to make sure that the certificate of occupancy is held with someone that is making 80% of the AMI, right? They want to make sure that they're giving some sort of affordable housing to someone that is not making enough money to, live in that general area. I mean, I guess I do want to see what the case study is. Like, I want to see someone go through this process. It sounds like it's a pretty new process, especially since it's called the pilot program. But I do want to make sure that it does make sense financially, especially for a lot of my buyers that are interested in house hacking. Like, why would they go through this if it just does not make sense to them, right? So I am interested. If you know anyone or if you've gone through this process before, let me know, or are currently going through this. I want to know what your process is like and what you've discovered along the way. So one thing that I wanted to mention here, and one thing that I thought was pretty important to understand, is that a lot of people, or not people, but a lot of developers that are building these communities, building these complexes, they're just getting more and more tight, right? back in the day in like the 50s, 60s, 70s, a lot of people enjoyed that freedom, that backyard space, that white picket fence feel in raising a family, right? So there's a couple of points that I wanted to make that are coming from this specific article. And with this specific article, they show how much of the lot size is shrinking and the living space is now becoming a higher percentage of that lot space. So I'm just going to go scroll down to Denver here. Okay, hold on. Just because I'm very interested. Like I was born and raised in San Diego. So back in the 1920s, 1920 to 1929, lot size was 5,700 square feet. Home size was about 1,250. And that's when my home was built, around 1930. And so that does make sense. My home size is a 3-bed, 2-bath, about 1,300 square feet. From 2000 to 2009, home size is 3,200 and lot size is massive. You're looking at 13,000 square feet. This is probably because it's like in suburbia, right? That's massive. Like not 10 times, it's about 4 times as big. And then this home size is about 4 times as big as well. Or the home size, the lot size is 4 times as big as the home size. So it's about taking about 25% of the lot. But then now you're looking at 2010 to 2019. Home size is almost 3,000 square feet. Lot size is 8,300. So from 2010 to 2019, these developers were making homes that were covering up about a third, just over a third of the actual lot size. It's crazy. More than a third. So now we look at Denver. Denver, Colorado currently builds homes with lots usage of almost 60%. So they're comparing Denver and San Jose, California. Feature median overall lot sizes of 6,200 and 6,000 square feet, while the median home sizes stand at 1,300 and 1,600 square feet. Decade to decade, evolution shows that lot sizes almost halved in Denver, from 6,100 in the 1920s to 3,300 in the past decade. Crazy. Okay, so now looking at it, 1920 to 1929, home size was only 1,100 square feet. Lot size was about 6,100. What is that? About 6 times or 1/6, maybe 1/5. Then you look at the 60s, 1960 to 1969. Home size was a little bit bigger, 1,350 square feet. And the lot size was about 9,000. So you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 times. So 1/6 the size. And then now looking at, oh my gosh, 2010 to 2019, home size is 2,000 square feet. Lot size is 3,300, taking over 50% of the lot size. That's insane. So what I'm trying to get at here is that like back in the 20s and 60s, you had so much lot size here, right? In the 2010s, you're probably building a lot more like apartment complexes and condos. And you just don't get that lot size that you can build an ADU and take advantage of. So you're putting in a lot of effort here of making sure that you have a good lot. You can build an ADU in the backyard, convert a garage maybe. And it's just pretty advantageous to go down the route of having a bigger backyard. And those that are interested in having like a condo, I mean, this does make sense. And it's a lot less maintenance, a lot less landscaping. I agree with you if that is your argument. But for the point of ADUs and relieving some of this pressure on housing, these 1920s to 70s builds and maybe even up to like 90s builds will have a lot more square footage for the lot that will accommodate for ADUs. So, anywho, I think one last thing I wanted to mention Yeah, just wanted to like first of all bring up this pilot program, right? And then seeing if you're interested in that as far as like the Denver city of Denver, county of Denver, make that all a part of it. And then what kind of houses you would be looking for or what type of property or what the ratio of that property should be looking like. And then what the ADU licenses and laws look like. So with HB 1152, a lot of things are now just more lenient. Like here, I think they put it pretty succinctly here. Basically, if there's room for an ADU, there can be an ADU. I think that's well put here. So one thing I wanted to mention before I let you all go is the market trends report here. January 2025, going into it. Median sale price or median close price was 0.5% down. I believe it was at 580 last month, December of 2024. Closed sales went down 30%. Sales volume also down 30%, which makes sense. I mean, if you're doing less closed homes, you're doing less sales. Months of inventory up 50%. Sellers are now hitting the market now that the New Year's is upon us, but not many buyers are buying because it's just unaffordable. There's so many buyers that I know that are just waiting still for things to get more and more affordable. The thing is that you need to take advantage of whatever market it is. There's always going to be something wrong with whatever market you will be in. And I've heard complaints on both sides when interest rates are lower and like sellers were willing to sell. Even though they were affordable, you would have to be competitive in your offer. So you got to pick your poison. In this case, months of inventory is only 3.4. And it went up 50% from last month. That's a lot. Up 50%. That's like one whole month of inventory for those that are in the Denver area. Median days on MLS, 45 days. So I think earlier it was like, 35 days for last month? So houses are sitting. Like probably the reason why I'm seeing all these days on MLS and this increase at 12.5% is because those homes that were not sold in December are probably staying on the market through January. So buyers just need some sort of relief. Yeah. And the last statistic that I like to look here, and maybe you can see it right here, is this close price to list price ratio. And I mentioned this a lot with a lot of my friends in the sense that at 100%, the close price to list price ratio, that means that if you were to go under contract at 600,000, you were to close at 100,000, and that is 100% close price to list price ratio. Now that we're seeing 98.5%, that's lower than 100%, right? So we're seeing a lower close price compared to the original list price. So at 1.5%, I would anticipate, let's say like 50 grand off, maybe like 30 grand off or something like that. Maybe less than that. I'm anticipating like maybe 15 grand off the actual list price. And that's the price that you would be closing as a buyer in this day and age. So yeah, month over month, new listings, 135% more listings, like month over month. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So another thing that I liked about this is Realtor Insights. You might not be able to see it here, but many experienced agents have more sellers than buyers lined up this year, raising the question, could this be the strongest spring buyer's market we've seen in the past 5 years? And in my opinion, I think this could happen. This is potentially a really good way for buyers to take advantage of this market, especially since we have months of inventory up, we have higher median days on MLS, we have lower median home prices going into 2025 and February 2025. There's just so much pointing to buyers being able to negotiate with the sellers that are looking to sell. And so that's the thing here. You need to find a way to make things affordable. Once you make things, maybe not make things affordable, but once you find a way to make the mortgage as low as possible by house hacking, by renting out rooms, any of that sort, if you're able to do that, I think you can really find a good deal here. You can, like, once you find a good deal and work with sellers here, it's funny. As soon as I get out of a showing, I get hit up from the sellers saying, hey, what did you think? I need feedback as soon as possible. My sellers are dying to know what's going on and why it's not selling. I need to know what the buyers are thinking. So I think buyers have a lot of leverage in this, especially as offers go. The thing is that you just need to find a way to make the mortgage affordable. That is the only setback and the only bar that you need to pass going into it. So, anywho, I appreciate you guys watching. I feel like this is such an interesting time, especially here in the housing market. Since I've been a real estate agent here in the Denver area, it's so unique. Like every market is unique going into like the new months, going into like the New Year's even. So appreciate you guys watching, and let me know in the comments below, or like send me a DM of like your opinions on ADUs and also what the market is like. If you're keeping an eye on it, if you're just waiting on the sidelines, I want to know your opinion, because I'd rather crowdsource it than get it from some sort of article with a study that's maybe properly done. So thanks again, guys. I'm going to try to make this every Wednesday. So appreciate you all hanging out. I'll see you guys next Wednesday.